All right, let's continue with our Bengals conversation as they get set to take on the Raiders. I think we've talked at length about this. I know you guys have on Chatterbox Bengals. I know everyone's looking ahead to that matchup with the Raiders next Thursday, but the matchup with the Raiders with the Ravens next Thursday night, the matchup with the Ravens next Thursday night means absolutely nothing if you don't win on Sunday.
Exactly. And I kind of touched on already about why I think this game's so important, and that's my first key of optimism for this week, is just the on-paper dominance between these two rosters.
Yep.
If you compare these two rosters, I know the Bengals haven't been great this year, but at some point in the NFL, the paper matters. And when you put these two teams together on paper, the Bengals are so much better at everything. And that's part of why I'm so optimistic, is because they've been able to take care of the teams that they are so much better than all year long this year. I don't expect that to change this weekend. I know they've struggled at home, but whether they dominate or not, the Bengals are going to get the win this weekend.
Hopefully.
That is why I'm optimistic.
Yeah.
Whether it's 17-10 or 21-14 because Charlie Jones wants to house a kickoff, the Bengals beat the poor teams.
Yeah.
And they're going to do it this weekend. I just hope it's a little bit more dominant than we've seen before against those bad teams.
For me, it's just about the look. I know.
Absolutely.
I know it's, style. There are no style points in the NFL. But you can also look good when you win.
For sure.
The Bengals have not looked good in their wins.
That's why in July when we're talking Bengals and you say slow start doesn't matter, it's not like college style points don't matter. That's a July talking point, but when the season gets here, no, you need to win and you need to look good doing it. The Bengals in the games they've won, they just haven't looked good doing it. And they've actually looked better in quite a few of their losses.
Absolutely.
They looked elite against the Ravens. They looked elite against the Chiefs. They looked elite against the Commanders. 0-3 in those games.
Yeah.
And then the wins, they don't look elite. And it's just football.
Yeah, and that parlays into my first worry, the complacency the Bengals have had in those games against bad teams.
Yep.
They haven't been aggressive. They haven't taken shots. They've run the ball. They've tried to drain the clock with 7 or 10-point leads. They need to remain aggressive in this game. The Bengals offense has struggled against some of the worst teams in the league after looking great, like Kinner just said, against some of the best. It's incredibly frustrating to watch. I don't know if the team and coaches are overlooking these opponents, just thinking they're better and not executing fully. I don't know what it is, but that needs to change this weekend. Complacency is my biggest worry against the Raiders. The Raiders will not beat the Bengals on Sunday. The Bengals could absolutely beat the Bengals on Sunday. You have to go out there and play 4 quarters of clean football and win the game. You have to.
It was pretty noticeable in the Browns game when the Bengals took a 21-7 lead that whatever happened to the play calling, whatever happened to the offense, it was done. The game was over when you took a 21-7 lead. And I think somehow the Bengals just are like, okay, let's take our foot off the gas and let's see what we can do. We'll just milk the clock and milk up until maybe Jameis Winston comes into this game, which is what happened. Blow a team out every once in a while. You don't this is the NFL. We're not saving feelings here. If you have to blow a team out, you can blow them out.
Lions put 50 up.
The Lions put 50 point. The Lions put 52 up on somebody, and their quarterback didn't throw the ball.
They didn't have yards.
So it's you're able to do that. I'd like to be able to see it. I'd like to be the ability to see. Every team has blown out somebody. The Broncos blew out the Saints.
Right.
Everyone has blown out somebody except for the Bengals, whose largest victory is 10 points.
Back to the optimism. The Raiders can't run the football.
No.
They can't do it. And how have the Bengals been beaten this year by most of these teams in the high-scoring games? Lull you to sleep with the run, explosive pass play over the top. It's been the recipe to beat this Bengals defense. Since losing Davante Adams these last 3 weeks, week 5 through 8, the Raiders are distantly last in the NFL in explosive plays. Only 5 rushes over 10 yards, only 5 passes over 20 yards. 10 total explosive plays in those last 3 weeks. Second to last has 15. This team has been inept offensively since they got rid of Davante Adams, and hopefully it's a chance for this defense to continue to show that they can handle these bad offenses. They did it against the Patriots even in week 1. They did it against the Giants. They did it against the Browns. You need to be able to hold this offense down because everyone else has been able to so far except for one piece, and it's my one concern on offense for the Raiders. It's Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers, the rookie first-round pick, leads the NFL in receptions so far this year. The production by a rookie from him is unbelievable. I don't know that we've seen such an immediate production from a tight end ever. I mean, Kyle Pitts had 1,000 yards his rookie season, then fell off the face of the earth. Hopefully the same thing doesn't happen to Brock Bowers. But this season has been incredible so far, and we know how tight ends have affected the Bengals over the years, especially this year. How many tight ends did the Ravens have that made impact plays? 3?
4.
Yeah, Charlie Kolar, Isaiah
Some guy
Likely,
named
Mark
Kovar
Andrews.
came in the game.
Exactly. Tight ends have destroyed the Bengals for years. And now we're playing against a team that's really their only option now. Jacoby Myers has been banged up for weeks. No Devontae Adams, obviously. Brock Bowers is going to be a big key for the Bengals to take out of this game in order to have a chance to win. And they have one superstar on defense as well. It's Max Crosby.
Yep.
Those two guys together really are the start and end of my concern for the Raiders this weekend. Max Crosby is a game wrecker at a position that can influence wins and losses. He's one of the best edge rushers in all of football, and Orlando Brown hasn't been practicing this week. Cody Ford is looking like he's going to play the left tackle.
Yep.
Not a matchup I'm excited about watching. Joe Burrow needs time in the pocket. Plays need to develop. What did I just say was my main concern? Being complacent, not taking shots downfield. You can't do that if Max Crosby's building a house in your backfield all day long.
No.
Cody Ford's going to have to hold up at that left tackle in order for the Bengals to win. That Max Crosby matchup is one I'm circling big time. The other thing, and it kind of comes with the other things I've said already, the Raiders are just a bad football team. They don't do anything well. They're one of the worst teams in the league, and it hasn't been pretty when the Bengals have played these teams, and they need to be able to dominate. But, again, you can't talk about worries for this game without talking about 0-4 at home. This team has not figured out how to win at home yet. They haven't done it. All 4 losses, you could say a few of those should have been wins. Obviously, we all have talked about week 1 a ton, about how upsetting that game is now, looking at how the Patriots have turned out. The Ravens game certainly feels like a win. The Commanders game, you were in it for the end, right at the end. You were in that game. But you have not found a way to come out on top at home. This game's at home. Bengals need to figure out how to win in Paycor.
That's the biggest glaring issue to me is how they haven't won a game at home. And you've been in every game at home, but it's just, except for the Eagles, I guess, if you want to make an asterisk. But it's just the inability to find a win at your home field is embarrassing.
Right.
I mean, it's embarrassing. 0-4 at home, and if you lose this one, not only would the season be over, but it would just be a slap in the face to the fan base who's continued to show up for the Bengals this year, despite everything that's been going on.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I don't get it. I truly don't get it. And by the way, Zach Taylor, I believe, now has a losing record all time at home. Not that I'd ever mention that,
but if you were going to.
But if I were going to, it'd sound like that.
If there's no T. Higgins on Sunday, how much does that change any concern for you at all?
It shouldn't. It shouldn't.
It shouldn't, but it will. I think that if you're not going to play Jermaine Burton, then it's going to be the Mike Gesicki, Jamar Chase show, which is fine. I mean, it was that plan was fine against the Eagles for a half. So maybe if you're up enough at the half against the Raiders, that's all you need. But you have to take a lead early. I think that T. Higgins has been such a big part of the reason that this offense has been successful, and to have him not be on the field consistently, and you can't rely on him to be healthy, then I have a hard time believing that this offense can reach its full potential, because the offense was built with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase in mind. Do we throw too much to those two guys and not enough to the other guys? Yeah, maybe, but when you have the 2 best receivers in the AFC, asterisks, but there might be some more. When you have the 2 best receivers in the AFC put together on the same roster, you throw the ball to them, and I don't really care about the volume share with targets. So if T. Higgins is a go, I feel very, very good about this game because it'll free Jamar Chase, and for some reason that's the only way Jamar Chase plays like Jamar Chase is when T. Higgins is out there, because Zach Taylor won't run a ball or won't run a pass downfield if T. Higgins isn't there for some reason. It's just 4-yard outs. But if he's not there, hopefully Jermaine Burton gets utilized. Hopefully this Bengals offense can see a spark, and hopefully this can be a season-defining win, because we haven't had that yet. The Bengals have been in this period of purgatory for a while now.
Yeah.
And it's just been, can you get over that hump? There's just been a wave. Eventually the tide has to turn, and we'll see if that's on Sunday. It has to be on Sunday because there's no other time to do it.
One thing I am wondering, how is all this affecting T. Higgins' free agency outlook? How are teams going to address him in free agency?
I don't know how you...
I kind of expect someone to still throw him a major contract and take the risk.
We'll see how many more games...
afford the risk, yeah.
Right, that's what like a team like, I don't know, the Panthers or Commanders or Patriots, one of these teams with a young quarterback, any of the list of teams that's going to draft a quarterback this year, I feel like
Cleveland loves throwing out bad contracts. They need a receiver. So,
and if you draft a rookie quarterback, it would relatively make sense to give him a decent weapon. So, I think there are going to be teams out there that are willing to take on the injury risk and throw him that major contract that we were talking about him getting before this offseason. But I think if you take out those bottom-of-the-barrel teams that are desperate, This series of events this year has cracked the window open ever so slightly for a T. Higgins extension in Cincinnati. I don't know whether we want it or not with the injury concerns, and it would still be north of $20 million. But this is probably knocking it down at least near 25, maybe below. He can't play full seasons. If you're a competitor and you're paying a wide receiver big-time money, you're not going to give him that big-time contract if he's not healthy.
I said that a few weeks ago, or I guess not a few weeks ago, I guess just last week. I'm like, is he hurting his way back into Cincinnati? Because, I mean, if he goes out there to test free agency and no one's willing to give him, top, and by the way, take injuries off the table. What's his pay comp? What's a receiver? And you don't have to have it right in front of you.
I was thinking like 25 to 28.
And I think that's,
And now I'm thinking like 22 to 26.
And so one of two things will happen. He'll get that and get less guarantee money.
Yeah. How would you give T. Higgins any kind of guaranteed contract?
And that opens the door for Cincinnati a little bit more.
Yeah.
Cincinnati could say, hey, we don't mind paying for your production, but we need you to be out there. But then again, this idea that the Bengals will pull the trigger on paying both Jamar and T in the same offseason when they couldn't even get it done with Jamar in one preseason, that's a big asking price. But I have thought the same thing. Has T's injuries kind of hurt himself back into the Bengals sweepstakes? Because I think it's not the total money, it's the guaranteed.
Right.
I don't think he's going to have any leverage to go to any team and say, oh, yeah, I want all these other player comps of mine. I want the same guaranteed as them. No other player comp has had the injury comps that he's had.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I mean, nonetheless. But it doesn't matter. He would, yeah. So if Cincinnati wants to go through the same song and dance every year with him getting hurt, and that's any team.
I'd want T. Higgins back, but I don't know what
I want T. Higgins back for the right price.
Correct. I'm not paying $30 million for T. Higgins, or 25. I wouldn't even pay 25
I wouldn't
million.
pay 25.
So I think you're looking at around the 20 million mark, and honestly, I'd take it at that point. But the question remains: how much will this offense change with Zach Taylor here? If T. Higgins were to miss time, and the offense looks terrible when he's not there. So, and that's it. It all goes back to Zach Taylor, and I hate to say that, but because this isn't a Zach Taylor segment. But the offense needs to be better, whether or not T's out there. And I know we're talking about paying T, so he better be out there. I get all that. You have to find a way to make this offense go if one of your guys misses time. And the offense hasn't gone when he's missed time. Figure it out, Zach. Please figure it out. If not, let's find somebody else who can make this offense work without T. Higgins being available for all 17 games.
I think that's a long list.
I think it's a long list, too.
All right, this is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube and ESPN 1410 Wing AM in Dayton. Happy Friday, everybody. Obviously, show's always NFL heavy it's NFL heavy every day. Let's just be real.
That's right. I mean,
even
NFL
more.
The world. What are we supposed to do?
But again, Bengals Raiders coming up on Sunday, pulling for a win there to set up a big showdown next Thursday night with the Ravens. But that game means absolutely nothing if you lose to the Raiders on Sunday.